Have you ever felt like your mind is betraying you? Like it turns you into a prisoner of your own thoughts? Those ideas that pierce like thorns, wake you up in the middle of the night, and whisper the same fears over and over again. This won't work out. What if the worst happens? How will I get through this? My friend, what you're dealing with isn't just a bad day. It's something far more cruel and relentless. Obsessive thinking. Ah, what a terrible enemy. It drains your energy, your time, and most of all, your peace of mind. But here's the hard truth. That enemy won't leave on its own. You have to face it, rip it out at the root like a stubborn weed. But don't worry. Today I'll show you how to do it using tools left behind by those who understood this struggle better than anyone. The Stoics. We're going to take their wisdom and combine it with modern psychological techniques to make your thoughts work for you instead of against you. It's time to stop being a prisoner of your mind. Today, you'll become its master, its ruler. Are you ready to break free from the chains of obsessive thinking? Before we dive into the lessons, let me tell you a short story that illustrates how obsessive thinking can become a relentless enemy, but also how you can disarm it and transform its energy into a force that works in your favor. I once met a young man named Daniel, who eventually became a good friend. Daniel seemed to have everything under control. From the outside, his life looked perfect. A great job at a top company, a family that adored him, and future plans anyone would envy. But as I got to know him better, I noticed something strange. Daniel always seemed deeply exhausted, carrying a shadow of worry he couldn't hide. One day he opened up to me. He confessed that he hadn't been sleeping well for months, trapped by a thought he couldn't let go of. It all started with a mistake at work. During a key meeting, he had presented a report with an incorrect figure, a small slip-up that completely changed the company's financial projections. At first, this mistake caused confusion among his superiors, who spent hours trying to make sense of the numbers. Later that day, Daniel realized his error and explained it in a follow-up meeting. Everyone understood and brushed it off. "It's no big deal, we're all human," they said. "Case closed." And for everyone else, it was over. But not for Daniel. For him, it became an obsession. Every night his mind replayed the same thoughts. You should have double-checked. What must they think of you? What if you make an even bigger mistake next time? It was like a constant echo, day and night, making him doubt himself over and over. And sadly, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened to him. Daniel had a long history of battling obsessive thoughts. He told me how, years earlier, he'd spent weeks agonizing over a message he'd sent to a client with a grammar error, imagining catastrophic outcomes that never came true. Or the time he replayed an argument with his wife for days, convinced he'd ruined their relationship forever. And whenever he felt any kind of physical discomfort, oh, the torment. Sleepless nights thinking he had some serious illness. It soon became clear to me that Daniel's life, far from being perfect, was a storm of emotional chaos. The mistake at work was just the spark that ignited another fire in his mind. I asked him, "Daniel, if you could go back and do it perfectly, do you think you'd be at peace?" He stared at the floor in silence for a while, then admitted, "I'm not sure." And there it was, the key. Because deep down, the problem wasn't the mistake itself. It was his fear of failure, his need to control everything, and his inability to let go of obsessive thoughts. He was fighting an impossible battle against an intangible enemy, his own mind. So I suggested something. Do what Marcus Aurelius would do. Ask yourself, is this under my control? And if it's not, why am I letting it affect me? At first, Daniel looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. But slowly, he began to reflect. Every time an out-of-control thought returned, he challenged it with a question. Is this something permanent that I can't fix? And each time the answer was no. It felt like the chains loosened just a little more. It wasn't a quick or easy process. But over time, Daniel began to make room in his mind for the things that truly mattered. His family, his passions, his goals. And he learned something fundamental. Obsessive thoughts don't disappear completely, but you can choose not to feed them. You can let them pass like clouds drifting across the sky without letting them darken your life. So tell me, my friend, how many times have you let obsessive thoughts steal your peace? How much longer are you willing to carry that storm in your mind? The good news is, you don't have to. Today is the day you can start to let go. Stay with me, and I'll show you how. Before we dive into these 12 lessons, if you're finding value in this content, I invite you to leave your mark. Share in the comments if you're ready to put an end to obsessive thinking, or simply say, Stoic at heart. Let's make this space a community where we can all grow and strengthen together. Let's get started. 1. Where do your obsessive thoughts come from? My friend, let's be clear from the start. Obsessive thoughts don't come out of nowhere. They're like echoes born from your fears, insecurities, or even past experiences you never fully processed. But this echo doesn't just linger. It bounces around every corner of your mind until it feels impossible to escape. So how can you break the cycle? Psychology gives us a clue. Obsessive thoughts are nothing more than your brain's failed attempts to solve problems. Yes, your mind wants to protect you, but it's going about it all wrong. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. These thoughts feed on repetition, on the attention you keep giving them over and over again. You might think that analyzing them endlessly will lead to a solution, but you're wrong. The mind doesn't work like that. The more you analyze them, the stronger they grow. Here's the key. You can weaken them. How? By stopping. By observing them without reacting, without trying to fix them. When you do this, the thought loses its power. It's like flipping a switch that once seemed stuck. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Eliminate the opinion and the complaint will disappear." Wow, what a powerful insight, right? The emperor teaches us that it's not what happens that obsesses you. It's what you decide to believe about it. Think about this. Does it really matter what someone said or what might happen tomorrow? Or are you just trapped in an illusion created by your own mind? Epictetus summed it up perfectly. We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our thoughts about what happens. In other words, the thought itself isn't the problem. The problem is the importance you give it. What makes it so overwhelming is all the time and attention you dedicate to it, replaying it again and again. Now listen carefully. Every time your mind spins in endless circles like a roulette wheel, I want you to do this. Stop. Stop reacting automatically. Take a deep breath. The simple act of stopping breaks the cycle. Then observe it with perspective. Ask yourself, is this true or is it just my interpretation? Be honest with yourself and shift your focus. Instead of endlessly turning the same thought over, redirect your energy towards something tangible. Something real that's happening right now. Something that disconnects you from the mental noise holding you captive. I want you to understand this. Your obsessive thoughts are not bigger than you. They don't control you, you control them. It's like standing in the middle of a storm. You can either stay there watching it swirl around you or walk toward shelter. Today, I want you to choose to walk. Step out of that loop and reclaim control over your mind and your life. Because, as Marcus Aurelius said, you can free yourself whenever you choose. 2. Kill that voice that torments you. My friend, let's be clear from the start. That little voice telling you that you can't, that you always fail, that you'll never be enough, it's not your friend. It's like a mental parasite, an old radio that never stops playing static. But listen closely. You have the power to turn it off. That voice only has as much control as you give it. So, why are you still letting it dictate your life? Imagine you're climbing a mountain and you've got a companion who never stops criticizing you. You're not going to make it. It's too hard. Who do you think you are to even try? Be honest. How long would you put up with that? 5 minutes? Impossible, right? You'd probably end up shouting, "Enough! I can't take this anymore." So why do you tolerate that same voice living inside your head day after day? That voice is just a part of you, fed by your fears, insecurities, and the limiting beliefs you've accumulated over time. But here's the truth. You are not that voice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Eliminate the opinion, and the suffering will disappear. That voice tormenting you isn't reality, it's just an interpretation. It's not an impartial judge, it's an inner critic that distorts everything you do. But you can challenge it. You can listen to it and say, "Thanks for your opinion, but I don't need you." Psychologist Carl Rogers said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." Do you know what that means? That little voice feeds on your attempts at perfection, on your constant self-judgment. But when you give yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes and learn from them, that voice loses its power, because accepting yourself doesn't mean settling, it means creating space for growth. Now, how can you turn off that voice that won't leave you alone? You're probably thinking it must be incredibly hard. It's been in your head your whole life after all. Let me tell you how I do it. First, give it a name. Yes, name that voice. Call it the critic, the pessimist, or even something silly like the chatterbox. Naming it helps you distance yourself from it. That voice isn't you. It's just useless noise you can ignore. Next, challenge it. Every time it says something negative, respond with questions. Is this true? Where's the proof? Most of the time, it won't have any answers. Finally, replace it. For every negative thought, create a positive and realistic one. If the voice says, "I can't," respond with, "I'm learning." If it says, "I always fail," counter with, "I'm improving every day." I want you to burn this into your mind. That little voice tormenting you does not define who you are. You have the power to silence it and turn that noise into strength. Today is the day to tell it, "Your game is over. I'm in charge here. Are you ready to take control?" Then do it now, my friend. This is your moment. 3. Protect yourself from other people's negativity. Let me ask you something. If you found a rotten piece of fruit, would you leave it next to the others and let them all spoil? Of course not. So why do you keep allowing other people's negativity to pollute your mind? You know you do it. We all do. We let those around us unload everything they're carrying onto us, filling our space with that toxic energy. At first it seems like no big deal, but over time, it starts to invade your mental space. It changes how you think, how you act, and worst of all, how you feel. Negativity is like having a loud radio blaring all day. Even if you're not actively paying attention, the noise is still there. It seeps into your thoughts and shifts your mood. Think about it. Those complaint-filled conversations, that one person who always sees the worst in everything, or the endless stream of alarming news designed to keep you on edge. How many times have you felt drained after a conversation, or after hours in front of the TV? The Stoics understood this problem all too well. Seneca said, "Surround yourself with people who can make you better, and also strive to improve those around you." This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself from the world, but you should be mindful of who you allow into your mental space. Imagine building a wall, not to block everything out, but to let in only what enriches and strengthens your life. Do you feel like negativity surrounds you like a heavy cloud? Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where is it coming from? Maybe it's that person who always has something bad to say, turning every conversation into an endless list of problems. Or perhaps it's your habit of spending hours on social media. Whatever it is, stop and reflect. Is this helping me or draining me? The answer will give you the clarity you need to take back control of your mind. And listen, you don't need drastic changes or to cut everyone out to protect yourself. Sometimes small adjustments are enough. If a conversation starts filling up with complaints, steer it towards something more positive. If you notice social media is making you uneasy, close the app and go for a walk. Breathe in some fresh air. A chat with someone inspiring, a book that fills you with new ideas, or even a moment of silence alone can make all the difference. Marcus Aurelius summed it up best. The soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts. So tell me, what colors are you letting stain your mind? What would happen if you became more conscious of what you allow into your life? My friend, this isn't selfish, it's self-care. And by doing it, you'll build the strength you need to live peacefully, mastering your mind and your thoughts. Remember, your mind is the ship, and your thoughts are the rudder steering it to safe harbors. For you are not what you think. Have you ever felt like your mind is relentless, constantly passing judgment on you? As if your thoughts are merciless judges, punishing you over and over. You're not enough. You always fail. You'll never change. These thoughts, though they feel like your own, don't define you. They're just background noise, like a song stuck on repeat that you never asked to hear. But here's a truth you need to embrace. You are not what you think. Your thoughts don't represent reality. They represent moments of weakness, fears you haven't yet mastered. And that changes today. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations that the life of a man is what his thoughts make of it. This doesn't mean your thoughts are absolute truth, but rather that how you choose to deal with them makes all the difference. You are not the inner critic that points out every flaw. You are the person who has the power to decide how to respond to that voice. Imagine a theater. Some actors are the stars, others are supporting roles, and many are just extras in the background of each scene. If one of those extras tried to steal the spotlight and ruin the performance, what do you think would happen? Would the director let them derail the entire show? Of course not. They'd be sent back to their place because they're not meant to take center stage. My friend, your mind is that theater, and your thoughts are the actors. You are the director, and it's up to you to assign each role. Now, where do you think obsessive thoughts belong? Exactly. They're minor roles. It's fine if they make a brief appearance, but they shouldn't control the entire performance. Say it loud and clear. You are the director, not a passive audience member. Let's bring this to everyday life. Picture this. You're driving, and someone cuts you off. Instantly, your mind jumps to, "What an idiot." But if you stop and think for a moment, maybe that driver was in a rush for reasons you'll never know. Obsessive thoughts work the same way. They seem real, but more often than not, they're just rushed interpretations of your mind. Modern psychology teaches us something crucial. Your thoughts are not facts. They're interpretations. They only hold as much power as you give them. Cognitive therapy, for example, encourages you to challenge these thoughts. Is this true? Is there another way to see this? By doing this simple exercise, you start to dismantle the grip those thoughts have on you. When negative ideas keep looping in your mind, don't fight them, but don't welcome them like special guests either. See them for what they are, visitors passing through, not permanent residents. Ask yourself, does this thought really define what's happening, or is it just noise I'm paying too much attention to? Each time you choose to stop the obsession, you reclaim power over your life. Because you are not what your mind says on a bad day. You are what you choose to do with it. And today, you can choose to tell yourself something new, something empowering. I am bigger than this thought. So tell me, my friend, are you going to let your thoughts run your life? Or are you going to take the reins? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and help you unload that mental burden. 5. Set goals that motivate you. My friend, when you don't have a clear goal, your mind starts to wander, searching for something to focus on. And in that void, obsessive thoughts find their home. It's like being in a messy room. No matter how hard you try to concentrate, the chaos around you distracts you, draining your time and energy on things that don't matter. But when you organize that room, suddenly everything feels clearer and more manageable. Goals do the same for your mind. They bring order to the chaos and give you purpose. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water using a hose that's spraying everywhere. What happens? You end up soaking everything except the bucket. But if you aim the hose directly, the bucket fills quickly and effortlessly. Your goals are that focus. When you decide where to direct your energy, everything else becomes less important, even those thoughts that consume you. When your mind is centered, it's much harder for it to wander off into imaginary catastrophes. The Stoics understood that having a clear purpose was essential to avoiding mental distractions. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, eliminate distractions. Focus your efforts on what truly matters. Your goals don't just give you direction, they also act as a shield against negativity and useless thoughts trying to invade your mind. Do you see the power in this? Purpose doesn't just give your life meaning, It helps you untangle the web of thoughts that's suffocating you. Let me ask you something. What's that one thing you've always wanted to do but keep putting off? Maybe it's learning a new language, developing a skill, or simply taking time for yourself. Spend 5 minutes on that project you're passionate about. Write a list of things you'd like to achieve this month, or give yourself permission to explore what truly excites you. Not only will you be steering your life in a better direction, but you'll also be learning to control your mind. And here's the most powerful part. Every small step you take toward a goal doesn't just bring you closer to achieving it. It trains your mind to focus on the positive. Obsessive thoughts lose their grip when you choose to direct your attention to something that truly matters to you. So tell me, are you going to keep scattering your energy on dramas that haven't even happened? Or will you focus it on what motivates you and fills your life with meaning? Today, you have the chance to organize that messy room in your mind and start moving toward what you truly desire. Doesn't it sound good to trade dark thoughts for accomplished goals? Go for it. 6. Ask for help when you need it. We live in a world where asking for help is often seen as a sign of weakness, but in reality, it's the opposite. My friend, you don't have to be a superhero. Asking for help takes courage because it means admitting that we can't always do it all, and that's okay. Even the strongest among us need a hand to lift them up sometimes. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Seneca said, "We need others to be strong." For them, community and relationships were fundamental pillars for growth and progress. It wasn't about carrying the weight of life alone, but about sharing it with those who could help lighten the load. After all, what's the point of being strong if you can't lean on others when you need it most? Picture this. You're in the middle of moving, trying to push a massive sofa all by yourself. You push, pull, try every angle, using every ounce of strength, but it doesn't budge. It's just too heavy. Then someone comes along and says, "Let me help you." Would you turn them down? Of course not. You'd gladly accept their help. And with just a little support, the sofa moves. It's that simple. Asking for help isn't giving up your strength. It's multiplying it. And it's not just a moral idea. Modern psychology backs this up. A study from Columbia University found that people who seek social support during stressful times are more resilient and less likely to develop anxiety or depression. Even just talking to someone you trust can significantly lighten your emotional load and quiet obsessive thoughts. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly, everything feels lighter and fresher. Now, I know that opening up to others can be challenging, especially if you're not used to it. Don't worry. Let's talk about how to start bringing this into your life. First, identify the people you truly trust. They could be friends, family, or even co-workers. You don't have to share everything all at once. Start small with something like, "Can I talk to you about something?" Or, "I need your opinion on this." The key is taking that first step. After that, the next one will feel much easier. Learn to accept the help that's offered to you. Pride often makes us turn it down, but let's be honest. What's more important, keeping up appearances or lightening your burden? Asking for help doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And when you do it, you not only find support, but also discover the connection and strength that come from sharing your struggles. So the next time you feel stuck, remember, you don't have to be a superhero. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is reach out and say, "I need help. Are you ready to take that step?" 7. Don't stay on the surface. Let me share something personal with you. A few years ago, I went through one of the toughest times in my life. I felt exhausted, irritable, and stuck in a loop of negative thoughts that seemed never-ending. Every day I'd tell myself, "I'm just stressed, it's work and it'll pass." They were quick surface-level explanations that helped me push through, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. I was lying to myself because I was afraid to look deeper, to face what was really going on. For a while it worked, or at least it seemed to. I piled on excuses and convinced myself it was normal to feel that way. But the more I ignored what was truly happening, the heavier everything became. Until one day, I collapsed. I remember lying at home, staring at the ceiling, feeling like something inside me had broken. I realized I couldn't keep moving forward without facing what was going on in my mind. I couldn't stay on the surface any longer. That's when I asked for help. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I did it. And you know what? Talking to someone was like opening a door I'd kept shut for far too long. I started digging into my thoughts and discovered that my endless obsession wasn't caused by what was happening around me. It came from something much deeper: the fear of not being enough, the pressure to meet expectations that weren't even mine, and the fear of failure. At first, it was uncomfortable, even painful. But with every conversation, with every moment of reflection, I felt like I was peeling back layers, slowly getting to the root of the problem. The Stoics teach us that we can't solve what we're unwilling to confront. Marcus Aurelius said, "Dig deep within yourself. There's a wellspring of good, and it is always ready to flow if you keep digging." And he was absolutely right. Ignoring the root of the problem is like painting over a cracked wall. It may look fine on the surface, but sooner or later, those cracks will reappear. I want you to think about this. How many times have you given yourself quick explanations for your struggles? How many times have you said, "I'm fine," when you knew you weren't? Don't judge yourself for it. We've all done it. But let me ask you something more important. Are you ready to stop avoiding what's really holding you back? If you want to move forward, you need to go beyond easy answers. Start asking yourself deeper questions. Why do I feel this way? What's behind this thought? And most importantly, give yourself the time to find the answers. It's not a quick or comfortable process, but it's the only way to truly heal. Don't stay on the surface like I did for so long. Go deeper, because it's in the depths that you'll find the real solution. The one that lets you let go, grow, and finally break free. Are you ready to take that step? If I could do it, so can you. 8. Understand that the past is already gone. My friend, think about this. How many times have you gotten stuck replaying a mistake from the past, reliving it over and over? Suffering day after day over something that happened long ago and can't be changed. It's like trying to walk forward while dragging a rope tied to a massive rock. No matter how much you try to move, the rock holds you back, drains your energy, and keeps you from enjoying the journey. Do you see the problem? But let me tell you something. That rock is your past, and that rope isn't tied to the ground. It's you holding on to it. So why not let go of it once and for all? Be honest with yourself. Do you see how much pain you're causing yourself by constantly looking back? That guilt, that regret, they're only in your mind. No one else sees or feels them like you do. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know how to handle better at the time. Appreciate yourself for what you've learned, and start looking at the past as a lesson, not a punishment. Because, my friend, continuing to punish yourself won't change what happened, but it can ruin what's yet to come. Marcus Aurelius said it best. When you arise in the morning, think of the privilege of being alive, of breathing, of thinking, of enjoying, of loving. What happened yesterday can't be changed, but today is your chance to choose how you respond. Why waste it looking back when everything that matters is right in front of you? Modern psychology tells us that dwelling on the past directly impacts how you feel today. A study published in Clinical Psychology Review found that constantly reliving your mistakes increases anxiety and keeps you from feeling fulfilled. But here's the important part. The same study shows that when you focus on what you can do now instead of being trapped in what's already happened, your mind begins to calm down and you regain control of your life. See? It's exactly what the Stoics taught us centuries ago. It's not about erasing the past, but using it as a springboard, not a burden. So how do you let go of the past? How do you stop that obsessive thought that traps you? The next time a memory invades your mind, pause and confront it with a direct question. Is it really helping me to revisit something that happened so long ago? Don't stay stuck replaying it. Do something to break the cycle. Go for a walk, listen to a calming song, take a deep breath and tell yourself, I'm here, not back there. These small actions will anchor you to the present and help you hit the off button on obsessive thinking. Every small step you take toward the present weakens the power the past has over you. My friend, The past is already gone. Letting it go doesn't mean ignoring what happened. It means learning from it and leaving it where it belongs, behind you. So tell me, are you going to keep trying to move forward while tied to the heavy rock of what was, or will you free yourself to enjoy the road ahead? This is your moment to move forward. Don't let it slip away. 9. Fear is just an illusion. Picture this. You're in a dark room. You see a shadow in the corner, big, menacing, even slightly moving. Your heart starts racing. You thought you were alone. What is that hiding in the darkness, staring at you? Feeling your way, terrified, you finally manage to turn on the light and you realize it's nothing more than a jacket draped over a chair. That's fear. A shadow that looks enormous, but when you examine it closely, turns out to be far less threatening than you imagined. And here's the trick. That shadow only has power as long as you're too afraid to turn on the light. Now, answer this honestly. How many times has fear fueled your obsessive thoughts? How often have you been stuck in a cycle of, what if this happens, or I can't afford to fail? Fear paralyzes you. It makes you repeat those thoughts over and over, as if thinking about them more could somehow give you control. But here's the truth. Fear, most of the time, is nothing more than a creation of your mind. It's like a mirage in the desert. It seems real, but it's not. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of the things we fear never happen, and the few that do are usually far less catastrophic than we'd imagined. As long as you let fear guide your thoughts, you'll remain its prisoner. When fear stands in front of you, don't freeze, question it. Ask yourself, is this really a threat or is my mind exaggerating? What's the worst that could happen if I face this? Is it truly that bad? Think about it. How many times have you been afraid of something that never actually happened? And even worse, how much time have you wasted feeding those thoughts instead of facing them and realizing they were nothing? My friend, fear is like a small snowball. Imagine you're at the top of a mountain, and that snowball starts rolling downhill. Every second you let fear paralyze you. Every obsessive thought makes it bigger and heavier until it feels unstoppable. But here's the key. If you stop and face it before it grows too large, you can break it apart with your own hands. Every small step you take toward what scares you shrinks its size until all that's left is a patch of melted snow. Fear is just an illusion, a shadow that vanishes the moment you decide to confront it. Now, I want you to dream for a moment. What would you do today if you weren't afraid? Tell me in the comments. What obsessive thought is keeping you stuck, holding you back from living in peace? This is your moment to face it and reclaim your peace. Share it as a symbol that you're ready to let it go. 10. You can't control everything. Let me ask you this. Do you really believe you can control everything? I'm guessing your answer is no, so here's a second question. Why do you spend so much energy getting upset every time it unexpectedly rains? Why do you get angry when someone does something you don't like? If it's not under your control, then tell me. What's your excuse for letting yourself be dragged down like that? Think about that argument you can't undo, that message you're waiting for but hasn't arrived, or that missed opportunity you can't get back. Why do you let your mind circle back to the same things over and over? It's like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how hard you try, it always slips away. And the worst part, while you focus on what you can't control, you lose precious time and energy that could be spent on things you can control. I remember a time when I spent days obsessing over a mistake I made in public. I kept thinking, what must people be saying about me? How can I fix this? The more I tried to forget it, the stronger the thought came back, like a song stuck in my head. But one day I stopped and asked myself the key question. What can I control right now? The answer was obvious. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could focus on doing better next time. In that moment, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Ah, what a relief. I finally got it. The obsessive thought lost its power because I chose to let go of what wasn't in my control. Epictetus taught, of the things that exist, Some depend on us, and others do not. That distinction is the key to living in peace. Imagine your mind is like a garden. If you waste all your energy being upset every time it doesn't rain, instead of watering the garden yourself, what do you think will happen to the poor flowers? That's right, they'll wither. But if you choose to focus on what you can control and let go of everything else, the problem is solved. You'll water your plants regardless of the weather, and your garden will thrive. So how can you apply this in your daily life? Start by identifying thoughts that revolve around things you can't control. Maybe you're worried about what others think of you, or you're obsessing over a past event. Instead of fighting those thoughts, do something practical. Are you waiting for a reply that hasn't come? Use that time to read, learn something new, or exercise. Are you stressing over something that already happened? Ask yourself, what lesson can I take from this? It's that simple. You can't change it, but you can choose to turn it into something valuable. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing to free your mind. So tell me, what are you holding on to that no longer serves you? Today could be the day you decide to let it go, because when you let go, you make space to grow. 11. Silence frees the mind. Picture a calm lake. So serene, so inspiring. Silence surrounds it, the trees reflect on its surface, and sunlight dances across the water. It's a beautiful scene, isn't it? Now imagine a group of children starts throwing stones into the lake. The reflection of the trees vanishes, the sunlight's shimmer fades, and the noise of splashing stones disrupts the tranquility. Such a shame, right? The peace is gone in an instant. Well, my friend, that lake is your mind. Every obsessive thought is like a stone dropped into the water, creating ripples that disturb your calm. But here's the good news. You're the one holding the stones. If you stop throwing them, the water becomes clear again, reflecting everything with clarity. That's the power of cultivating silence. It's not about eliminating your thoughts. It's about learning to observe them without reacting. It's allowing the ripples to settle so your mind can regain its peace. Let me ask you something. Does the constant noise in your head exhaust you? That feeling of not being able to stop your own thoughts is draining. It's an inhuman punishment. But listen to me. It's not something you have to accept as inevitable. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "Withdraw into yourself. There you will find peace." This retreat isn't a physical place. It's a mental state. It's learning to find calm amidst chaos. Everyday life gives us countless opportunities to cultivate that silence, but we often ignore them. What do you do when you're standing in line at the supermarket or waiting for a friend to show up for dinner? Most of the time, we fill those moments with more noise, scrolling through our phones, worrying about something, or distracting ourselves with anything we can find. But what if, instead, you used those moments to breathe, to close your eyes for a second, and simply observe your thoughts without judgment? Silence isn't emptiness. It's space to see things clearly. When obsessive thoughts invade, imagine them as leaves falling onto the surface of your mind's lake. You could try to pick up every leaf, disrupting the lake's peace, or you could simply watch them float away. That shift in perspective is what calms the mind and breaks the cycle of repetitive thinking. I want you to try something. The next time your mind feels overwhelmed, stop. Find a quiet spot, even if it's just for a few minutes, and focus on your breathing. Don't fight your thoughts. Let them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. The more you practice, the more you'll realize you don't have to react to every mental impulse. Calm isn't a gift someone gives you. It's something you cultivate within yourself. Now that you know how to find that space of tranquility, let me promise you something. What comes next won't just change how you handle obsessive thoughts, it'll change how you live each day. Because true calm isn't just about silencing the noise, it's about filling that silence with meaning. 12. Happiness is not the destination, it's the journey. How many times have you told yourself you'll be happy once you achieve something? Once you solve that problem, or reach that goal you've been obsessing over. But here's the truth. If you keep waiting for that perfect moment, life will pass you by while you're stuck in limbo. Happiness isn't waiting for you at the end of the road. It's in every step you choose to enjoy today. Imagine you're cooking a recipe you love. You're so focused on how it will turn out, whether everyone will like it, or if it's cooked to perfection that you miss the joy of the process. Once again, that mental storm of obsessive thoughts pulls you out of the moment. You don't notice the aroma of fresh ingredients, the music playing in the background, or the simple pleasure of creating something with your own hands. And when it's finally time to taste it, all that stress and perfectionism rob you of the satisfaction. Instead of enjoying it, you're preoccupied with whether it's perfect or worrying about someone's potential criticism. How often do you let this happen in your daily life, letting the destination overshadow the journey? Seneca, in his wisdom, said, "Life is like a play. It's not the length but how well it's performed that matters." This doesn't mean you should ignore your goals, but it does mean you should learn to find value and joy in the present. Because, my friend, if you can't be happy with what you have now, no matter how much you achieve, you'll always feel like something's missing. Let me share something I learned the hard way. There was a time when I was obsessed with achieving certain goals. I kept telling myself, once I finish this project, or once I reach this milestone, then I'll be able to relax and enjoy life. But what I didn't realize was that, in obsessing over the future, I was missing out on the small joys of everyday life, an unexpected conversation, the pleasure of a quiet cup of coffee, even a moment of silence. One day, after feeling mentally drained, I stopped and looked around. I realized I was surrounded by beautiful things, but I hadn't noticed them because my mind was stuck in a someday that never seemed to arrive. So how can you stop obsessing over the destination and start enjoying the journey? First, focus on the present moment. Try this simple exercise. Whenever you find yourself lost in thoughts about the future, stop and identify 3 things you're grateful for right now. Second, accept that life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. Happiness isn't found in what's missing. It's in how you choose to see what you already have. Third, take small, intentional actions every day. You don't have to solve everything at once. Every little step counts. Happiness isn't a prize waiting for you in the future. It's something you choose to create in every moment. So tell me, what can you do today to find it? Because in the end, it's not about how long the journey lasts. It's about how you choose to walk it. And that, my friend, is entirely in your hands. So the time has come. Take control of your mind and free yourself from the obsessive thoughts that are holding you back. Calming the storm within is an act of courage and self-love. Every time you choose to let go of what no longer serves you, you create space for the peace and clarity you truly deserve. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I am the captain of my mind." Let's claim this together. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.